Hello, everybody. We are starting DNA today. It is Monday, April 20th. It's a little windy out here, so I apologize about the audio if it does get too windy, but I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to go nice and slow. So today we're talking about DNA, right? And what is that? That's our hereditary material. So we did those Punnett squares, right? And we did the big B, little b, and those big B's, those little b's, those whatever letters you want to say, those are genes. Those are sections of DNA that code for our traits. So now let's get into it. Let's look at it. Look at the structure. Let's look at the job. Let's do the whole thing. So what is the job of DNA? Well, it has a couple of functions over here, right? The first function is it has to store information. So what does that mean? What kind of information? And really, it's the instructions to build you or an organism, anything, right? It can store information in the form of these little bases, A's and T's and C's and G's in a specific order. And that specific order means a specific trait, and then it will be expressed in a cell. It's like a computer program, right? You have a bunch of ones and zeros, and they code for different things. You're like playing Fortnite like my children are, it codes for the different skins that you have. Same idea. Codes for the eye color, codes for the hair color, codes for all of that. So it's a storage center. And if we actually look, I have over here, we are learning how to use DNA to store information. And if you read on here, let me see. We could store, actually we watched that video, we could store libraries and libraries of information on little tiny pieces of DNA. It's crazy. All right, so we have some other functions. I still want to go on with the storage information here part. So what are we storing? We're storing genetic information. That's the code to make you. So far, so good. It needs to be able to replicate itself, because if it can't, what's the point of storing information? Just think about how long information has been stored and passed down with DNA. If we find DNA on another planet, then it's safe to say that there could be life somewhere out there. Now, as scary as it seems, I don't want to look for life on another planet because we're in this pandemic. And imagine if another alien species brought some other virus here that we couldn't fight. That's why I always said we got to take care of Earth first, then we can go searching for other things. All right, so it can replicate. And we'll get into that tomorrow and how it replicates itself. So really, we could just say it can make more of itself. And DNA can absolutely do that. And that happens through the process of mitosis. And then we have controls cell activities. What does that mean, control cell activities? Well, in 7th grade, and I always tell you, we're in 8th grade now. 7th grade, we say it's the control center of the cell, it's the brain of the cell, and all that stuff. Pfft, humbug. It controls the production of proteins. Proteins are just genes. Genes are traits. It controls the production of proteins. Proteins. And then one last piece, and if you look at my little pictures I have here, these are legit pictures. We have capable of mutating. And what does mutation do? It provides us with variety. It provides us with evolution. Well, Mr. Gordon, why would we want that? Because in cases where we have changing environments, we need organisms to be able to survive that. Just think alone at the coronavirus. There are people that are asymptomatic. What does that mean? Well, that means that they're not getting the virus. Well, they're getting it, but they're not exhibiting the symptoms of the virus, and it's not affecting them like it affects others. That allows a species to go on. Imagine if nobody could survive something like this. It would be the end of the human race, right? So mutation is good. Not always, because sometimes those mutations end up being cancers, and that's bad. Or you have defects, like birth defects and things like that, and that's bad. But on the rare occasion, it is good. All right, so its job, storing information, controlling the production of proteins, replicating, and mutating. So let's go forward a little bit. We went through the storage. We went through every cell in our body has the same DNA. The only difference is it's only expressing certain genes. So your eyeballs are expressing the color in there and doing their thing, whereas your skin is expressing... I'm always confused with this. It's all like backwards. Skin is expressing its color and it's doing its thing, and in your mouth you're making saliva. You don't make saliva on your skin. That would be weird. Anyhow, I like this little cartoon. DNA molecule was actually discovered in 1953, and it was actually by a female who ended up passing away, and Watson and Crick got the credit for it. So there you go. But we can't forget about... Where is she? There she is. Rosalind Franklin. She took this picture, and that picture is what led Watson and Crick to their discovery. Had Rosalind Franklin been alive, I'm guaranteeing she would have figured it out. Unfortunately, she passed away. And then she did not get credit because they don't give the Nobel Prize posthumously, meaning after death. All right, so what is the structure of DNA? Well, oops. It's a pretty simple question here. It's called a double helix. I like to refer to it as a twisted ladder. You could also say it is double-stranded. And this double-strandedness is key because it's able to replicate itself. If you have a strand like this and then a strand like this, right? You could pull it apart and then remake both the strands that are complementary to it, that go with it, right? So we know, and I'm going to go over it with you, but if you have AT, I'll do AT, and I'll do AT, right? We could pull it apart, and then you can have AT, 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 and then AT, AT, AT. And that is clutch. I mean, we need that. So it's a double helix, also known as an alpha helix. If I try to draw it for you, I could try over here. There we go. And it's going to look something like this. And if it was warmer out, one day it'll get warmer, I could, show you my tattoo on my arm that has that. So it's a double helix. It's a twisted ladder, right? And just going with that, actually I'll leave that there. The genes are segments of DNA. I think on the worksheet that I have today, it asks you what a gene's made up of, and they're made from DNA. They're just segments of DNA. So this might be a gene for eye color. And everything's very basic here. If you're really into this, you can take some developmental genetics courses and genetic courses in college, and you'll learn some crazy, fascinating stuff about DNA. Right? So that's our twisted ladder, our double helix. It like spins, which is nice, because then it could twist down really tight and coil up and fit into the cell. I believe they say like all the DNA in your cell, one cell, can be untwisted and it can reach the moon and back. I think that is what the saying is. That's pretty long. All right, so where is it? I don't have it there. I wanted to draw it. Anyway, you should know the shape of and I say new DNA, that's a nucleotide, right? And this is what allows it to coil up, right? We have this phosphate group. It's like the swimming pool, as Miss Sideritas would say. You have this sugar, right? The structure here, you have a deoxyribose, right? That's the sugar. Forget the ribose. It's deoxyribose in DNA. And then the nitrogenous base, A, T, C, G. The reason we call it nitrogenous is because it has a nitrogen in it. That's the structure of a nucleotide. You put a bunch of them together. What do you get? You get that. All right, and if you look here, we have this sugar, that's the deoxyribose right there, along with the phosphate. And it is connected by hydrogen bonds. I'm not concerned with you knowing that. Oh, it's Thursday. My garbage goes out today. I think I missed it. Oh well. Moving on. All right, and then the last stuff over here, the nitrogenous bases. My iPad's acting very funky. We have 4 of them. We have adenine, also known as A, thymine, also known as T, guanine, also known as, yep, I heard it, and cytosine. Spelling that wrong. I know. My bad. Also known as, you got it, right? And they're complementary. What does that mean? They go together. So you have A is always going to pair with T, or T is always going to pair with A, C is always going to pair with G, and G is always going to pair with C. They go together. So I like to ask this question. If you had, let's say, 10% T's, right? What percent is going to be G's? So this is a mathematical question. If 10% is T's, then 10% has to be A's. Why? Because they go together, always. And that's 20%. Hey, what happened? That's 20% total. So now we have 80% left. So 40% would be G's, and then C's would be 40%, and that gives you 100%. 40, 80, 100. Okay? I think that's all I got for you today, right? We did that, we did that, we did that, we did that. Here's a good question. The letters represent different types of what? The letters are the bases. Your answer is going to be choice 2, molecular bases. Getting windy. If we were to pair these up, G pairs with C pairs with what? G. A pairs with what? T. A pairs with T. T pairs with C pairs with T pairs with A pairs with. Great job. And we did all that. So we're good. Good. Some other questions, I'll answer these 2, and we'll call it a day. Which group contains only molecules that are assembled from smaller organic compounds? Well, if it's smaller organic compounds, then it's going to be our, remember, CHON, CHON, and then P, chump, right? So that's going to be proteins, DNA, fats, and starch, aka carbohydrates. The largest amount of DNA in a plant cell is contained where? Always going to find it in the nucleus. That's where it's going to be at. All right, guys, that's what I got for you. We went over the what DNA's function is, the structure of it, and what it's made up of. You have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.